The galaxy had never seen such a gathering of power. The Terran fleet, 700,000 warships, carriers, and escort vessels, stood in orbit above Earth like a wall of steel and fire. From distant star systems, alien empires tuned their long-range sensors, watching with disbelief. No species, not even the ancient galactic powers, had ever assembled such a force in one place. But it wasn't just the size of the fleet that shocked them. It was the silence. Not a single human transmission leaked into open space. No speeches of dominance. No threats. No bluster. The ships simply hung there, dark and waiting, as if daring the galaxy to make the first move. On the observation deck of the Imperial Harrower, Admiral Sen Irix of the Klin Dominion stood frozen. His compound eyes flickered over the sensor readings, but the numbers refused to make sense. "How can they build so much, so fast?" one of his aides whispered. Irix did not answer. He had studied Terran history. He knew their wars, their resilience, their endless capacity to rise after every fall. And yet, even he struggled to believe what his own eyes told him. Then, without warning, the impossible happened. The Terran fleet vanished, not jumped into hyperspace, not cloaked, not destroyed, vanished. One heartbeat, 700,000 ships filled the orbital grid. The next, nothing but empty void remained. Alarms blared across the alien vessel, data streams flashing red. Sensors swept, recalibrated, scanned across every frequency, yet they found nothing. No energy residue, no warp trails, no debris. It was as if the Terran fleet had never been there. Across the galaxy, chaos erupted. The Volari Collective declared it a trick, a mass projection meant to terrify. The Drask Imperium whispered that Earth had summoned help from beings beyond the stars. The Zorathi Syndicate demanded proof, insisting no mortal fleet could simply cease to exist. But deep inside every council chamber, unspoken fear gnawed at the rulers' minds. What if humanity had found a way to step beyond known science? On the world of Ulmaris Prime, the Galactic Council convened in emergency session. Towering delegates filled the crystal amphitheater, their voices rising in panic. "Destroyed! They must be destroyed!" shouted a reptilian chancellor. "No!" countered a feathered envoy, trembling. "Our sensors would have shown wreckage. This was deliberate." "Then where are they?" came the echo from a dozen mouths. And still no one had an answer. Meanwhile, far from the political chambers, a lone alien archivist named Thale watched the transmissions with growing dread. He was old, older than most council members could remember, and his memory carried scars of history long erased. He had read ancient records, scrolls forgotten in dust, that spoke of Terrans not as victims or aggressors, but as something else, something greater. He whispered to himself, "The prophecy begins." Back aboard the Imperial Harrower, Admiral Irix gripped the railing until his claws dug grooves into the metal. His officers scrambled, shouting reports. But all he could do was stare at the void where Earth's armada had once stood. A chill ran down his spine. "They didn't run," he muttered. "They didn't hide. They moved." His aide glanced at him. "Moved? To where?" Irix's eyes darkened. "That is what terrifies me. Because if they can vanish 700,000 warships in an instant, they can place them anywhere, even above our worlds." And in that moment he realized what the galaxy had just witnessed was not the absence of power, but the arrival of something far worse, a power no one could track, predict, or defend against. The Terrans had disappeared, but the fear they left behind echoed across every star system. To be continued in Part 2, Echoes Across the Stars. The disappearance of Earth's mighty fleet spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every starport, Every military base, every trade hub buzzed with the same question. Where did the humans go? No one had an answer. And that was the most terrifying part. Galactic Paragon, the glittering world of Ulmaris Prime. The center of the Galactic Council, panic had turned into chaos. The great crystal chamber shook with the angry voices of dozens of species. They tricked us! One insectoid delegate screeched, his wings buzzing furiously. Impossible! Growled a scaled warlord from the southern sectors. 700,000 ships cannot simply vanish. They have allies! Shouted another. Ancient powers, hidden gods. Who else could do this? Each voice tried to shout over the others, but underneath the noise, one truth remained. None of them trusted their defenses anymore. If the Terran fleet could vanish, then it could also reappear, above their worlds. The Valari ambassador slammed his clawed hand on the council's table. We must unite and strike Earth now before they return stronger. But his words drew gasps. No one dared to speak the thought aloud. What if Earth's fleet was already above their skies, watching? Whispers in the dark far from Ulmaris Prime, in the shadowy alleys of a Zorathi trade station, smugglers whispered the story in hushed tones. They say the Terrans bent space itself, one muttered over a glass of black liquor. No, another countered, eyes wide. I heard they never had ships at all. It was an illusion, a threat. The first smuggler shook his head. Fool. I saw them with my own eyes. They were real, and now they are gone. The whispers carried fear. Fear that grew stronger with every retelling. Fear that made even the most hardened pirates avoid Terran space routes, as if expecting an ambush at any moment. The Elder speaks. On a forgotten moon, deep within an archive carved into living stone, Elder Thale sat surrounded by glowing data crystals. His eyes burned with memories too ancient for his fragile body. He had lived through 3 wars, seen empires, rise and fall, and still, nothing compared to what he felt now. The prophecy is alive, he whispered to the empty chamber. The texts he had studied spoke of the Silent Legion, a Terran armada that would not be seen until the stars themselves trembled. It was not meant to be taken literally. Many scholars laughed at the legend. But Thale no longer laughed. The humans had disappeared, just as the prophecy described. He pressed a trembling hand on the crystal tablet. The others will not believe until it is too late. The Imperial debate. Meanwhile, on the Imperial Harrower, Admiral Irix listened to the endless arguments of his fellow commanders. They met in a sealed war room, holograms flickering with the faces of admirals spread across the Dominion. It was cloaking technology, barked one. No, a mass jump into hyperspace, argued another. Lies! Our sensors would have detected both. Irix said nothing for a long while. His compound eyes scanned the battle logs again and again, replaying the moment of disappearance frame by frame. Each time the same conclusion rose in his mind. They moved, he said finally, his voice low but heavy. The others fell silent. Explain. Irix's claws tapped the table. They did not leave. They shifted, as though they stepped sideways into another layer of space, one beyond our reach. The war room fell quiet. The idea was terrifying. If the humans had discovered a way to exist outside known space, then no fleet, no army, no fortress could ever feel safe. Fear becomes strategy. Across the galaxy, governments scrambled. The Valari doubled their patrols, sending scout ships into Terran borders. The Drask Imperium activated their ancient planetary shields, draining half their energy reserves just to feel protected. The Zorathi Syndicate pulled back their fleets, guarding their trade routes instead of expanding. Every empire had the same thought. Prepare for the worst. Yet the humans did nothing. No transmissions, no sightings, no attacks, only silence. And in that silence, The galaxy's paranoia grew louder than any battle. A lone message, then one night cycle later, an encrypted signal pulsed through the void. It was faint, almost ghost-like, and only a handful of listening posts caught it. One phrase, repeated over and over, "The stars will bear witness." The signal matched Terran code. The galaxy froze. Admiral Irix listened to the message again and again, his mandibles clicking nervously. "The stars will bear witness." To what? He muttered. No one had the answer. But across the galaxy, every species felt the same chill. The Terrans were not gone. They were waiting. And whatever came next would change everything. Deep within the stone halls of the archive of Ulmaris, Elder Thale shuffled slowly toward the central chamber. His steps echoed against the carved walls. The younger archivists barely noticed him. Most considered him an ancient relic, a mind lost in dusty scrolls and dead languages. But Thale had seen things no one else alive remembered. He had studied the hidden histories, the kind buried, erased, and forbidden. And now the Terrans had spoken words he had read only in the oldest prophecies. He summoned the younger scholars. "Listen to me," he rasped, his voice cracked but urgent. "This signal is not random. It is the beginning of the prophecy." The scholars exchanged doubtful glances. One finally asked, "Elder, what prophecy?" Thale's eyes glimmered. "The Silent Legion, the Terran's destiny, written in the first records after they left Earth's cradle and touched the stars. The legend of the Silent Legion." Thale activated a crystal projector. The chamber filled with flickering light, revealing star maps from thousands of years past. The story says humanity was never meant to rise among the stars. They were meant to command them. The Silent Legion would one day vanish before the eyes of the galaxy, only to return when judgment was due. And when they returned, his voice trembled. The stars themselves would bear witness to their power. One young archivist scoffed. "Old myths, nothing more. Every race has legends." But Thale slammed his staff against the stone. "Do not be fools. Look at what you have seen. 700,000 warships gone in an instant. No wreckage. No trace. Tell me what science explains this." The chamber fell silent. None could answer. The Council's refusal word of Thale's claims reached the Galactic Council. Soon the Elder was summoned to the Grand Chamber, where leaders of 100 species glared down at him from towering seats. The Valari ambassador sneered. "You dare bring us fairy tales in a time of crisis?" The Drask general growled, his armored tail slamming against the floor. "You suggest we bow to Terran superstition?" Thale bowed his frail head, then raised it with surprising strength. "I suggest you prepare. The Terrans have stepped beyond our science. They have reached into a realm you cannot imagine. If you continue to mock, if you continue to ignore the truth, you will be destroyed." The chamber erupted in shouts. "Lies! Fear-mongering! Old fool!" Only a few sat in silence, their eyes narrowed, troubled. The words of the Elder gnawed at them. But in the end, the Council voted. The Elder's warnings would be dismissed as delusion. The galaxy would not bow to Terran myths. A soldier's doubt back aboard the Imperial Harrower, Admiral Irix received the Council's decision. He listened, silent and grim, as the decree spread through the Dominion fleet. Ignore the old man. Focus on defense. Yet Irix could not let it go. He remembered the void left in orbit of Earth. He remembered the feeling in his chest, a predator's gaze, unseen but present. He replayed the Terran signal in his mind. "The stars will bear witness." He whispered to himself, "The Elder is right. We are already being watched." A signal in the archives. That same night, Elder Thale sat alone in the archive. His wrinkled hands hovered over the glowing crystals, searching for forgotten fragments. And then a pulse, A hidden transmission, buried deep in the archive's old channels, activated. His heart raced as words appeared in Terran's script. "We are not gone. We are preparing. The galaxy must choose." Thale's eyes widened. He felt both terror and awe. The humans knew of the prophecy, and worse, they were following it. Fear takes. Route across the galaxy, reports of strange sightings grew. Merchant ships claimed to see flickers of enormous shadows in hyperspace lanes. Scout vessels swore they detected phantom signatures near their colonies, signatures matching Terran warships. The Council dismissed them as panic-fueled hallucinations. But in private, leaders could not sleep. The fear was taking root. Elder. Thale stood on the balcony of the archive, staring into the endless sky. His voice was quiet, but carried the weight of centuries. "They laugh at me now, but soon they will understand. When the silent legion reveals itself, the galaxy will weep." And somewhere, unseen and silent, humanity listened. To be continued. In Part 4, The Return in Shadows. For 3 full cycles, the galaxy lived in uneasy silence. No sightings, no signals, no attacks. The Terrans had vanished, and yet their absence was louder than any war drum. But silence never lasts forever. The first flicker it began in the outer reaches of the Valari frontier. A patrol of 6 frigates cruised along a quiet sector, their sensors sweeping empty space. Suddenly, one ship reported a ghost signature, massive, impossible to ignore. Then it was gone. The captain ordered a recalibration. Nothing. The readings had vanished, as if they had never existed. But then, a shadow passed across their viewports. Enormous, black, like a mountain drifting in the stars. "Contact!" the captain shouted, his voice cracking. "Raise shields!" Before the order finished, the shadow melted into the void. The patrol scanned desperately. Nothing remained. No warp trails, no signal. Just silence. All 6 frigates returned home trembling. And yet, when they brought their reports to command, the officials dismissed it as sensor error. But the crews knew better. They had seen something real. The phantom sightings one by one, reports began pouring in from every corner of the galaxy. A Drask mining colony swore a fleet had hung above their asteroid fields for 1 full hour before vanishing. A Zorathi smuggler claimed to pass through a hyperspace lane only to see a convoy of Terran ships gliding beside him in silence, their hulls darker than shadow. On Ulmaris Prime itself, night watchers whispered that they saw streaks of light moving across the atmosphere. Ships descending, then gone. At first, governments denied everything. They called it paranoia, illusions born from fear, but the reports would not stop. And soon, even the most loyal soldiers began to wonder, what if the Terrans are already here? Admiral Irix's realization aboard the Imperial Harrower. Admiral Irix reviewed the sightings personally. Each report seemed too detailed, too consistent to be lies. He leaned back, his mandibles clicking in unease. "They are not gone," he murmured. "They are testing us." His aide tilted her head. "Testing?" "Yes," Irix said. "Showing us shadows, letting us glimpse them in the corner of our eyes. They want us to know they are here. They want us afraid." He turned toward the viewport, staring at the endless void. "And it's working." A council in denial once again, the Galactic Council convened. Delegates shouted, wings buzzed, tails slammed against marble floors. "This is manipulation," the Valari ambassador roared. "The Terrans are weak. Why else hide like cowards?" The Drask general snarled. "Weak? Do you call vanishing 700,000 ships weakness? They mock us. They toy with us like prey," another delegate hissed. "Perhaps they simply observe. Perhaps they wait for us to strike first." Elder Thale, standing frail yet firm in the center, raised his staff. "You blind fools," he cried. "They are not hiding. They are already here. Their silence is not weakness. It is power. Every day you deny it, their shadow grows longer across your worlds. But the chamber drowned him in laughter, mockery, and insults. The council was not ready to admit the truth. Fear had twisted their pride. Humanity moves in silence. While the galaxy argued, the Terrans moved. Their ships did not reveal themselves in daylight. They traveled in silence, cloaked in strange distortions of space. Their presence felt only as flickers on distant sensors or shadows across alien moons. They never attacked. They never destroyed. They only appeared long enough for someone to see, long enough for rumors to spread. Then they vanished again. To the common people of the galaxy, it felt like ghosts had come alive. The Silent Legion was not just a legend anymore. It was real, drifting unseen across the stars. The Valari incident then, one night cycle, the Valari Empire learned the truth the hard way. A weapons testing station orbited close to their border, shielded and fortified. During a live fire test, alarms suddenly erupted. Massive signatures appeared around the station, hundreds of them. Terran warships, larger than anything Valari had ever faced, hung in perfect formation. The Valari commander panicked. "Open fire! Destroy them!" But before the order completed, the ships vanished. Their missiles streaked into empty space, detonating harmlessly. When the smoke cleared, the Terrans were gone. The Valari High Command silenced the event, calling it equipment malfunction. But the surviving crew whispered the truth. The humans had come, and they had left the Valari, firing at shadows. A galaxy on edge across the galaxy, fear turned into paranoia. Every shadow looked like a Terran warship. Every flicker on a sensor screamed danger. Soldiers slept in their armor. Leaders shouted for answers they could not find. And still, the message remained the same. The stars will bear witness. The humans were no longer just an enemy. They were a presence, everywhere and nowhere, silent and unstoppable. Elder Thale watched the panic unfold and closed his tired eyes. "The return in shadows has begun," he whispered. And for the first time, he felt pity, not for humanity's enemies, but for the galaxy itself. Because soon, the shadows would not just linger. They would strike. The galaxy was trembling, not because of open war, but because of silence. The Bai, kind that stretched across every star system, heavy and suffocating. The Terrans had not fired a single shot, yet entire empires could feel the weight of their unseen fleet pressing down like a storm waiting to break. The breaking point on Ulmaris. Prime, the Galactic Council chamber was packed. Holograms of delegates shimmered from every empire, their voices rising until the crystal walls shook. "This cannot continue!" The Valari ambassador roared, slamming his clawed hand on the table. "Our people demand action. We must strike. Earth now before they strike us!" A Drask general bared his fangs in response. "Strike? Against ghosts? Against ships that vanish before your weapons fire? You would waste fleets chasing shadows?" The chamber erupted with shouts. Some demanded immediate war, others begged for restraint, and a few, those who had seen the Terrans with their own eyes, sat silent, their fear choking them. Two factions, the council split into two clear sides. The Hawks, led by the Valari and the Syndicate, demanded an all-out offensive. They claimed the Terrans were bluffing, that their disappearing fleet was nothing but advanced trickery meant to terrify the weak. "Call their bluff!" they shouted. "Strike them down and end this madness!" The Doves, led by the Drask Imperium, and a handful of smaller worlds, argued for caution. They had seen the shadows, the phantom ships, the silent messages. "We cannot fight what we do not understand," they warned. "One wrong move, and we may invite extinction. For weeks, the galaxy trembled in silence. The council argued. Fleets moved in secret, Whispers filled every trade station and military outpost, and still the Terrans remained unseen. Then, without warning, the waiting ended. The first demonstration happened on the edge of Valari space. A massive starbase, bristling with weapons and sensors, was monitoring for Terran movement. Suddenly, alarms screamed across the station. Space itself shimmered, like water rippling in sunlight, and then from nothing they appeared. Not hundreds, not thousands. Tens of thousands of Terran warships, drifting in perfect formation. Their black hulls gleamed with a faint, unnatural light, as though reality bent around them. Valari gunners panicked. "Target them! Fire!" Missiles, beams, and plasma storms erupted from the starbase. The galaxy watched through live transmissions, holding its breath. Every shot passed harmlessly through the Terran fleet. The warships were there, visible to every eye, yet untouchable, like shadows carved from the void itself. Weapons phased. Through them, sensors overloaded, and commanders screamed in disbelief. Then, as calmly as they arrived, the entire Terran armada flickered once and vanished. The Valari starbase was left silent, trembling, and broken, not by damage, but by fear. Shockwaves. Across the galaxy, the footage spread within hours. Entire populations watched in horror as the Terran fleet shrugged off the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. "They are untouchable," whispered a Zorathi merchant. "No," replied his companion, trembling. "They are unstoppable." On Ulmaris Prime, the Council erupted in chaos once again. The Hawks shouted for war, the Doves demanded surrender, and the neutrals sat frozen, their pride cracking under the weight of the truth. For the first time, even the Valari ambassador faltered. His words were weak, his voice unsteady. "If they cannot be touched, then how do we fight them?" Elder Thal's prophecy, Elder Thal, was summoned again, no longer mocked, but feared. He entered the chamber with the slow dignity of age, his staff echoing against the marble floor. "You have seen it with your own eyes," he said, his voice carrying over the frantic crowd. "The Silent Legion is no illusion. They walk in a realm beyond yours. They are here, yet not here. They are shadows until they choose to strike." The chamber fell quiet. Even the proud Valari dared not interrupt him. Thal lifted his staff toward the heavens. The prophecy said the galaxy would not believe until the proof of power came. Now it has. And still you ask if they are bluffing? His eyes narrowed. "Fools. They have shown mercy. If they wished, that star base would no longer exist. They are not asking for war. They are giving you a choice." Admiral Irix's fears in his private quarters aboard the Imperial Harrower. Admiral Irix replayed the footage again and again. Each time, the same truth burned deeper into his mind. The Terrans had transcended war. His aide entered quietly. "Admiral, the Council asks for your recommendation." Irix's compound eyes darkened. "Recommendation? There is only one. Do not fight them. Do not anger them. If we strike, they will erase us." The aide hesitated. "Do you mean surrender?" Irix's claws dug into the arm of his chair. "Not surrender. Survival. Those who bow may live. Those who resist will vanish as surely as their weapons did." The second message. Then, just as the galaxy teetered on the edge of collapse, another signal came. This time, it was no faint whisper. It blazed across every channel, every frequency, reaching every star system at once. The message was simple. A single Terran voice, cold and calm. "We have shown you shadows. Next, we will show you truth." Across the galaxy, beings shivered. If what they had just seen was only shadows, then what was truth? A world trembles on Ulmaris Prime. Panic swept the streets. Citizens fled to bunkers. Armies mobilized. Leaders screamed at each other in fear. The Council was no longer divided into hawks and doves. It was divided into the terrified and the hopeless. Some called for surrender. Others cried for defiance. But none could hide the truth. The galaxy was no longer in control. The Terrans were. Elder. Thale stood once more on his balcony, his ancient eyes fixed on the sky. "They will reveal themselves soon," he whispered. "And when they do, no empire will ever forget." He closed his eyes and let the words of the prophecy echo in his mind. The stars will bear witness, and the galaxy will kneel. The galaxy had reached the edge of panic. The Terrans had shown their shadows. They had demonstrated a power that slipped past every defense, every weapon, every hope. And now, the message echoed in every heart, from the lowest worker to the highest ruler. "We have shown you shadows. Next, we will show you truth." The gathering on Ulmaris Prime. The council assembled for what many believed would be the last time. The crystal chamber throbbed with fear. Delegates whispered, eyes darting toward the skylights, as though expecting Terran ships to descend at any moment. The Valari ambassador tried to speak, but his voice cracked. The once proud hawks were broken. Their calls for war had vanished, drowned by the memory of the untouchable fleet. The Drask general rose, his armored frame trembling. "We can no longer fight them. We must choose survival. We must bend the knee." Whispers spread like fire. Was it true? Was surrender the only path? Then Elder Thale, frail yet unshaken, stepped into the center of the chamber. His staff struck the floor with a sharp crack, silencing the chaos. "The choice is not yours to delay," he said. "The Legion comes." The sky opens, and as if summoned. By his words, the sky above Ulmaris Prime tore apart. Not in fire, but in silence. Space itself rippled, folding like fabric, and from the tear emerged the Terran fleet. Not 700,000 this time. Millions. They filled the heavens from horizon to horizon, blotting out the stars. Their hulls glowed faintly, as though lit by a fire that came not from engines, but from reality itself. Citizens flooded the streets, staring upward in awe and terror. Children wept, soldiers froze, leaders collapsed into silence. The prophecy had arrived in full, and then the voice came, not through speakers, not through comms, but through the very air, resonating in every mind. The stars bear witness. The galaxy must choose. The ultimatum, the Terran message was clear. No threats, no ultimatums of conquest, only choice. You will not invade us. You will not command us. Those who seek war will be ended. Those who seek peace will be spared. The choice is yours. On the council floor, chaos erupted once more. The Valari screamed for defiance. "We are proud. We will never kneel." The Drask general slammed his claws. "Better to kneel than burn." Others sobbed, paralyzed, unable to speak. Admiral Irix, watching from the Imperial Harrower, whispered to himself, "They are not conquerors. They are judges." Worlds decide across the galaxy. Empires scrambled to respond. The Drask Imperium, once proud warriors, bowed their banners and declared peace with humanity. The Valari, blinded by pride, mobilized fleets in defiance. Within hours, their warships vanished, gone as swiftly as the Terran fleet had once disappeared. Not destroyed, not wrecked, simply erased. Smaller worlds surrendered immediately, broadcasting pleas for mercy. The Syndicate splintered, some factions yielding, others plotting rebellion in the shadows. Every choice was noted. Every decision was recorded under the watching stars. Elder Thale's final words. Elder Thale stood on his balcony as the Terran fleet loomed above. His frail body shook, but his eyes glowed with something close to peace. "It is not domination," he murmured. "It is revelation." The galaxy thought itself the masters of the stars, but the Terrans, they are the stars chosen. He collapsed soon after, his last breath carrying a whisper only the winds heard. The prophecy is complete. The reckoning. The Terrans did not conquer. They did not enslave. They did not demand tribute. They simply enforced their will. Worlds that resisted fell into silence, their fleets and cities erased without fire or rubble as though history itself had swallowed them. Worlds that submitted lived on, untouched, but forever changed, their pride broken and their destiny rewritten. The galaxy had expected a war. What it received was something far greater: judgment, humanity's silence. And when their point was made, when the lesson was carved into the very memory of the stars, the Terran fleet vanished once more. Not a single ship remained in orbit. Not a trace of their passage lingered. Only the echo of their words carried across the void. The stars have borne witness. The galaxy would never forget. Epilogue on distant worlds. Alien children asked their parents about the day the sky turned black with Terran ships. Some called it the Day of Shadows. Others called it the Reckoning. But among the elders and scholars, only one truth remained clear. Humanity had risen beyond war, beyond fear, beyond defeat. And from that day forward, every empire, no matter how proud, looked at the night sky with new eyes. Because somewhere, unseen, the silent legion watched, and the galaxy knew, if it ever tested humanity again, the stars themselves would bear witness to its end. The galaxy had never felt so quiet. Every empire, every colony, every hidden outpost was frozen in fear, replaying the Terran message that thundered across the stars. The stars will bear witness. Choose your path. Some had already chosen. Some bent the knee. Others sharpened their weapons. But all of them knew the moment of reckoning had arrived. The defiance of the Velari Empire, proud and defiant, made their decision. Their emperor broadcasted across the galaxy. We will never bow to shadows. Humanity hides behind fear because they are weak. We will crush them, and the galaxy will remember who holds true power. Their fleets launched from every stronghold, 200,000 warships armed with the deadliest weapons known. They marched on Terran space, confident in their numbers. For 1 hour, the galaxy watched their advance. For 1 hour, hope flickered among those who wanted to believe humanity could be defeated. And then, the Velari fleets vanished. Not destroyed, not burned, simply erased, like chalk wiped from a slate. No wreckage, no survivors, no signal. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. The Velari homeworld screamed as the sky split open. The Terran fleet appeared in orbit, millions strong, blotting out the stars. Their cities trembled under the shadows. And then silence. No fire reigned, no destruction came. The Terrans simply hung in the heavens like gods, their presence a judgment too heavy to bear. The Velari Emperor fell to his knees. His empire was broken. The galaxy kneels. The message was clear. No one else dared resist. The syndicate fractured. Instantly, its factions racing to declare peace. The Drask Imperium bent its armored pride and swore loyalty to survival. Dozens of minor worlds broadcasted their surrender before Terran ships even looked their way. Across every star system, the same words echoed, "Spare us! We will not fight! We will obey!" And through it all, the Terrans said nothing. They did not demand tribute. They did not seize worlds. They simply watched, their silent fleet covering the stars. The galaxy had knelt without a single Terran shot fired. Elder Thal's last vision. Elder Thal stood on his balcony one final time, his frail body trembling as the heavens above Ulmaris. Prime turned black with Terran warships. Tears streaked down his wrinkled face. "The prophecy is fulfilled," he whispered. "The silent legion has risen. The stars themselves have borne witness. He clutched his staff tightly, his breath shallow. They were never conquerors. They were judgment, and we were weighed. He closed his eyes and with his final breath, smiled faintly. May history remember. The elder's body fell still, but his words carried across the archives forever. The departure. And then, just as suddenly as they had come, the Terrans vanished. Once more, millions of warships dissolved into nothingness, leaving empty skies above terrified worlds. No wreckage, no trails, only silence. The galaxy exhaled in relief and dread. The Terrans had not conquered, but their message was eternal. We are here. We are watching. Do not test us again. Epilogue. The New Order years later, children across. Alien worlds still asked about the Day of Shadows. Some called it the Reckoning, others called it the Silent Judgment. But no matter the name, all agreed. The galaxy had changed forever. The Valari never recovered. Their emperor lived in shame, a reminder of pride broken. The Drask built shrines, praying to never anger the humans again. The Syndicate told their young, trade freely, but never cross Earth. And in every council, every chamber, every throne room, one unspoken law reigned supreme. Never provoke the Terrans, because somewhere, unseen, the Silent Legion waited, watching, judging, and the galaxy knew, if it ever defied humanity again, the stars themselves would bear witness to its end.